This morning I'm heading up into the mountains with Kun Pan, one of the local guys here, who helps look after the water and irrigation system, and he's going to show me where the water comes from, where the reservoir is up in the mountains that supplies all the rice fields in this area. There are extensive networks of irrigation canals all over Thailand. Our water here comes from the mountain, Doi Inthanon. It's one of the biggest national parks and has a huge catchment area, and this is one of the reasons that we liked this property when we bought it, is because we knew that it had a good water supply. In fact, it's got 3 or 4 different sources of water that we can use here on our property, both inside the house and in the garden. But most of the water management around here is controlled for growing rice, because rice is such an integral part of farming life in Thailand. Each hectare of rice requires 9.4 million litres of water each growing season. So wrap your head around that. It's a lot of water. And as we're winding along the road here, the canal is also winding along beside the road. Most of the way now, this canal has been concreted in, which has been a huge change, both on our section but all through the area that this canal supplies water for. And today I'm riding up into the mountains to see where this water is coming from, particularly for the rice. The water that we use inside our house is a clean water source. It comes from a bore down in the valley just behind us. But then we've also got access to water that we use for our garden, and this is the first stop that we're going to make in the little journey that we're taking today up into the mountains to see where that source comes from. It's a bit further up, it's deeper into the national park, and it is all piped in through PVC pipe. So it's a cleaner source of water that doesn't get contaminated by any farming that might happen along the way. A couple of other sources of water come from the same stream, but they're in open canals. So canals run open through the fields and therefore are more susceptible to getting contamination from agricultural sprays and fertilizers and such like. The PVC pipeline was put in about 10 years ago, but the canals have been here for over 50 years. That system is over 50 years old and is incredibly integral to the life of most of the people who live in this area, who farm rice and are orchardists. And much like the rice paddies, the canals were all dug by hand. They were all made by hand. There was no heavy equipment or even light equipment used. It was just all manual labour. And as I said, there are massive networks of canals that run throughout the country because rice farming is such a big part of Thai culture. There was a great opportunity to have a bit of a guided tour up through this valley. I'd been up to this village once before, just come to have a bit of a look around on my own. But today, following Kun Pan, he was showing me some of the areas of significance to the canal, but also giving me a bit of a guided tour around some of the local villages and things to see up in the mountain. And I have been thinking about making this journey, and I'm going to have to come back and do it again during the cool season now that the weather has improved. It was great to see that the road is passable and that it's concreted all the way. There were places along the way where it's obvious that there'd been some slippage, there'd been some mudslides over the road, but these have now been cleared up with all of a huge amount of rain at the end of September that we had, or right through August of September, but with the huge rain at the end of September and the big flooding that happened in Chiang Rai and Chiang Mai, and to a lesser extent around here, I was a bit concerned that the road may not be passable because of slips or washouts, but that seems pretty good, and there was definitely other traffic moving up and down the road as well. So sometime in the near future I will make this journey again and see if I can follow the road all of the way up past this huge rock that you can see here. This is known as the head of the tiger. We can see it from our place, and I know that if I was to drive further up I would come out to the other side of it and meet up with the main road that runs through the Doi Inthanon National Park. And hopefully my little old Honda Dream, my 100cc scooter, will manage this okay. It seemed to do okay on the hills. It was a little bit tricky, it was a little bit unusual for me. I'd never ridden a bike in such steep roads before, but we managed okay and it was a lot of fun. In previous years during the rice growing season, which is the rainy season in Thailand, we've noticed a lot of water seepage coming into our property. We've managed it reasonably well, but we were always looking forward to the time when this canal in front of our section would be concreted. And this year they were able to complete this work just at the beginning of the rice growing season. So there was a few places in our yard that would become particularly soggy once the water in the canal had started again. During the dry season, the water's not flowing all the time. It's carefully managed, only providing water to the orchards that need it. But during the rainy season, during the rice growing season, the water flows freely 24/7. And along with the seepage that comes from our neighbours' rice fields, we'd get a few soggy patches in our garden, and thankfully this season they have not appeared at all. Our ground has been, in those particular areas, has been quite a lot drier. And when we bought the land, we were told that this work would be done. It's taken about 7 years for it to happen. I think there was some delays because of difficulties with budget because of the COVID pandemic. And this budget is coming from central government, so the village were just at the mercy of when this budget was available and when the work could actually be done. But now, having the canal concreted in, the whole system is much easier to manage and much more efficient. There's far less seepage, there's far less waste, and having a greater volume of water that is really moving faster and stronger, it reaches the fields more quickly and in a more manageable way. And when there's not so much rain, the water management is much more critical, and this is all controlled by the local government. Our village headman and his team control who gets to use the water, when they get to use the water, and it's rationed out as necessary during the times where there may not be enough. But generally speaking, that's never really a problem here because we live at the foot of the mountain, and during the rainy season there's never been a shortage of water since we've been living here. And this is the way that water is managed throughout the country, sometimes on a smaller village level scale, but also with the use of larger reservoirs and huge dams and big canal systems, massive canal systems crisscrossing the country. That's all very carefully controlled and well managed. And every now and again, from time to time, we'll get one of the locals coming down letting us know that there's going to be a community work effort that we can join in with, or we can make a financial contribution to buy some refreshments for those doing the work. So all of the work to keep the canals clean and clear of debris and keeping the canal area from being overgrown, this is all done by the local villagers and managed by the local village government. And generally happens once or twice a year that they get in and have a big work day to help keep the canal clear. Over 55% of arable land in Thailand is used for farming rice. It is just part of everyday life. When you meet a Thai person during the day, they will likely ask you "Kin khao ruyang," which literally means "Have you eaten rice yet today?" So it's that much part of everyday life. And Thailand is a top international exporter of rice. And Thailand is also the origin of the famous hom mali, which is jasmine rice. But here in the north, most of the rice that's farmed is khao niao, or sticky rice, also known as glutinous rice. And throughout the country, approximately 30% of the population rely on rice farming for their livelihood. And then here we are pulling over at the entrance to the track where the water source is and just made a short walk, maybe 50 metres or so, 100 metres or so through the forest. And there was another canal running alongside us, and Konpon told me, no, this is a different water system. This water goes to another part of the village, another part of the countryside. And as we came through to where the small dam was, a little bit of a reservoir there, and here is the beginning of the PVC pipe that brings the water all the way down to our village, down to our home, and further down into the fields as well. So I spent a bit of time here. I put the drone up to have a bit of a look and to survey the area to see where we were a bit more and to show you just how gorgeous it is living up here. And it's just so lovely and peaceful. The air temperature is a bit cooler now. It's not so humid. There's less rain around, and beautifully clear day. The views were spectacular. And then after this, we went back down, followed the road back down the river and stopped off at another small reservoir area. And this is where the water source for the canal, the one that's recently been concreted, comes from. So it's a lot lower down, and as I said, it's open to the air, so more susceptible to any contamination that might pick up in it. But there's a good volume of water flowing through this canal all day, every day during the rainy season, so there's no shortage of water whatsoever. I was a little bit surprised that the catchment area was so small, but I guess they know that the flow of water down this river is constant, and sure, it's going to be drained off, it's going to be caught and sent to other areas via other canals as well as the one that runs past our place. So it's been a very interesting experience to have a little tour up the mountain, a little guided tour, and to discover where the water comes from that we make good use of in our garden and that all our neighbours make great use of as they grow their rice and their orchards. I hope you've enjoyed taking that wee journey with me to see where the water comes from to supply our neighbours' rice fields and our gardens. If you'd like to see a little bit more of our neighbourhood, please check out this video next. Thanks very much for watching.